Hi everyone, welcome back. We've had a couple of deliveries today, my last two deliveries that I've been expecting. The first one of which, in its fragile items box, has come looking rather the worse for wear. You'll see in the top of the box that we are missing some of the packaging. But if we have a look inside, we'll be able to see what is in this package. It's tied in, so I'll just break the tie. And what we have here, pull it out. Dispose of that. We have a little tree, and it's going to tell us what it is. It is a Fukien Tea bonsai tree, and this is from Easy Planets on Amazon. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take it out of its pot, get it into some bonsai soil, and just make any minor adjustments to the tree and set it on its way. But while we're unpacking, we have a larger box here. Live plants, urgent delivery. Let's get it open and see what's inside. So there's some paraphernalia in here trying to sell us things. Some support sticks, and if we lift tree number 1 out, that's there, and then if we pull another one out, I bought 2 and we seem to have 3. So if we have a look at these, it's called a Carmona, so we'll find out exactly what that one was. It's referring to Carmona. That's called a Carmona, and this one, I'm not sure what that one is either. But if let's get the packaging out of the way and see what we're working with. So there we go. It's a Ligustrum in a ceramic pot. This one, if I can break it free. Is a Carmona, as it says. We'll just take this out of there. And this other package is the same Carmona. Seem to have sent to her, probably because of the size of it being small. So that's the other one. It's a little bit stuff all over the place here. We have some more here, which are going to be the drip trays. So buying online, this is the sort of thing that you can expect to receive. They don't look too bad, but they've been mass produced and not a lot of personal care has gone into them. But if you get one that's okay, you're going to be able to make some minor alterations and get quite a nice bonsai, I would think, out of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to whip them out of their pots, do a quick little bit of root work, get them back into the pots in some nice bonsai soil, and put them somewhere nicely to recover and grow and carry on. So we'll get on with that now. Okay, so here we are, and the first tree to be repotted from the newly delivered plants is the Fukien Tea. So we'll get it out of the pot. Slightly tight in there. And it seems to be in more soil than anything. So we'll just slowly pull it through. Yeah, there's a lot of earth sort of substance in this tree. The roots certainly isn't pot bound. There are some roots in here, so we'll just give it a quick raking through to see what roots we actually have. It doesn't seem to be a huge amount, but that'll be good because it will go straight back into the same pot and with very minimal root pruning. So just try and get rid of all the old soil here, so that we can get some nice bonsai soil into these roots. And yeah, because obviously these are mass produced, you don't tend to get too much care and devotion to the trees. So there's a lot of you know, crossing roots, and you know, you're not going to find a really nice root system on here. But if we get it cleaned out and we can get it potted back in, we're going to be potting it straight back in to the same pot, and we're going to be using pure Akadama for this. I happen to have just laid my hands on a bag of Akadama. I've not really used it before. Some people really like Akadama and some people don't like it at all. But ideally we would be looking to repot this again quite soon, because there's a lot of roots that come off and go off in strange directions. There's one root here coming off and swinging round. There's other roots that are coming off and swirling back on themselves, but because it's literally just arrived and we don't really know any history of this tree, we'll just get all the old soil out, clean up the roots, take a final look. If there's anything we feel that we need to instantly remove, we will, but I really don't want to cause too much problems to this root system, and it's going to go pretty much straight back into the pot. There might be the slightest bit of root pruning maybe, but we'll clean up the roots, give them a wash, and then we'll come back and have a look. Okay, so I've washed the roots, and we have a lot of well, troublesome kind of roots. Some that we will be able to straighten out, and some that really do need cutting off, removing, chopping, changing. But I'm not going to go too drastic. Just want to try and see if it's how it's looking to go back in the pot. So it will go back in, but it will need a few of these roots taking off. So if we just look round, we've got a giant gnarly one that's going through and coming back on itself, that ideally we would want to take it off to here. So looking at these roots, there's a number of roots that come off and go into all sorts of strange directions, roots that immediately suggest they need to be cut off. We could take the risk of cutting them off and seeing how the tree performs. I'm just trying to make a decision as to whether or not that's what I want to do. It would be a shame to get this delivered and then lose it by some overzealous pruning, but the sooner we take a hold of these roots, the better. So I'm just fighting with myself here as to which roots to remove and which ones to leave in. The ones that come down here aren't too bad. This one that comes off sideways, swings round, goes underneath and comes back on itself, that's a problem root. There's a larger root that comes down and then dog legs around. There's some longer roots that come off of a root that comes out at the bottom, swings all the way around and goes off here. So one minute I'm saying that we're not going to take too much off at all, and then the next minute I'm kind of wanting to remove as much as we can. Obviously our root plane that we're looking for is going to be in this general area, which means this one's slightly too high, this one's coming down and lifting straight back up. I think the answer that I'm going to give myself is we're going to give it a slight prune around the edges first, so that it will definitely slot back into the pot. So we haven't done too much damage to it there, but you can see that they come off and they're working their way around all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. Some of these will be able to comb out straight as they go in, but as you can see from the bottom, they'll swirl him round. I think what I'm going to do is this one that comes across the bottom here, I'm going to take that back to the point where it comes down there. That leaves me with this root here that comes and swings all the way around. So I'm going to take that one back to there. So that gets rid of some of the twistiness. It's still twisting, but I daren't take too much more off. This one will come off altogether probably on the next repot, and some of these others will. What we need is to get some more roots, some more radial roots coming out that we can use, some feeder roots, and work with those. So we'll just see how that's going to fit back into the pot. And it kind of does. It needs just a slight bit of additional pruning, and then we can get it in. But getting it into some better soil is going to be the first trick. I'll just take some of these off here, just a bit of a profiling. That sounds good. So we'll just put a thin layer of the Akadama soil into the bottom, and then we'll take our tree, put that in, and then we'll just fill in around it. I'll just try and work that in a little bit with the chopstick into all the, so it's into the roots. So it goes into all the air pockets that we've created within the roots by removing all that old soil, and it'll create lots of little air pockets for the nitrogen to get in to the roots. The water will be able to flow through very nicely. And you can see, apart from the bits that are jumping out, the soil level is dropping down as it feeds into the spaces in the roots. And there's still plenty of space down there. It's almost holding itself nicely in the pot. Just need to keep working it in as best we can. We'll just have this one root on the surface that's sticking up. We'll just get rid of that. I don't want that sticking up. And we'll continue to work the soil in. It's slowly beginning to hold itself, and the soil's beginning to disappear into the bottom of the pot, apart from, like I say, the bits that are jumping out. This is the first time I've really used Akadama, so I'll be interested to see the results that we get. I can see underneath that it's already turning into a mushy substance, so it might be that in future we put some perlite in with this to keep the air pockets more attainable, because if this is just going to mush up, we're going to lose a lot of our air spaces in between the gravelly material that we're using. Normally we're using a perlite and fired clay material similar to turfus. We don't really get turfus in England, but there are plenty of absorbent materials that are available that are commonly used. So that's going in okay. I'll give that a bit of a spray. Just to moisten the surface. I'll just come in with the watering bottle just to give it a thorough watering through, and that's nicely coming out the bottom, as you can see. And then what I'm just going to do, I managed to get hold of some moss. I'm going to just dress the top of this with some moss. Just to make it look nice. Doesn't look too bad. A little bit around this side. And then just filling in this edge. There we go. We'll give that another watering over. And we'll let that sit now, and hopefully it'll enjoy its fresh new soil and continue to flourish. It looks a little bit nicer than when it first arrived. I will leave the canopy alone for now. There's a lot of new growth coming through. I don't want to agitate that, so we'll leave that be for now. We'll let the roots get re-established, and we'll get it into the tent upstairs, one of the tents, and further updates to come on the Fukien Tea. The next tree that we have is the Ligustrum, Bonsai Ligustrum in ceramic 12cm. We're going to repot this one as well, so we'll get this out of the pot. See, we're straight out. Look. Yeah, there's lots of roots on this, so definitely a good time to be repotting this with the roots that are there. It was beginning to become not pot bound, but there was obviously a lot of roots pushing around the edges. So if we rake out from the top to see what we've got, always in this radial motion, as we always do. You will hear the ripping of the crossing roots, but we don't mind too much. It is a bit annoying, as you can hear them ripping away, but obviously it keeps our nice radial roots intact. So it's coming out quite nicely, so, and there's going to be plenty of roots for us to trim back and get back into this pot, into this newer soil. We'll just have a little look to see at the bottom, see if we can bring it out. Yeah, there's a lot of lengthy roots on that which we need to tidy up and get away, but there's certainly plenty of nice fine good roots for us to work with on this tree. Some really long ones that are snaking around, but there's some really good nice roots for us to work with and start trying to get that nice radial root system that we look for. So I'll just try and tease these out from the center at the bottom. Raking outwards from the middle. There's plenty of this old soil right in the middle, and there's lots of strange activity in the root base plane where it's been allowed to grow and twist into lots of different directions, but it looks like we've got a really lot of nice fine roots that we can work with, and they're just nice and small, and a couple of big ones, but a lot for us to work with here. This one looks like it had a bit of TLC at some stage. We've got all these roots at the bottom that can fan out nicely. They're already trying to. There's a couple of big nobules at the bottom that we might need to cut away, but we'll see what we've got as we keep getting further in. But this actually isn't too bad a root system on this. Right, we'll go and clean the roots and get the rest of the soil out, get cleaned up, and we'll come back and see what we've got. So we've got some interesting things going on in here. We've got this trunk that was chopped here at some stage, has a branch that's come out and gone up and then been chopped again, and then down here in the root base it's got a root that kicks out bulbously and swings back round and drops like a pair of trousers almost into the bottom here, and we've got some nice, well, sort of nice beginnings of radial roots coming out here, but off this bulbous root we've got this one that comes and goes across everything, causing a bit of a mess. So I think we're going to have to take that off back to here, because we've got plenty of these other roots. So if I come in and take that off, it actually frees up the other roots quite nicely. That will have to be addressed a bit further, I think, this big bulbous root. We have another root that comes out of the trunk here, which is way above our root plane. We need to get rid of that. Doesn't seem to want to come away. That's that gone. And then we have this other one root that's come out and dropped down into the soil, but it's not really within our root plane. We will hide this bulbous part under the soil for the time being, but this one all the way up here will just have to come off. So that's those. Now we do have a lot of roots that are coming off this bulbousy root part that are there, and what I'm thinking of doing eventually, if not now, is to take some of that away, carve it away at some stage, and allow that to be, you know, part of the flare as it goes into the soil, possibly. Wouldn't be ideal, but in order for the tree at the moment, we don't want to be taking too much off. We just need to make sure that it will go back into the pot. We'll take these longer roots away. And that leaves us with a good few beginnings of radial roots. We have a few that are a little bit high up that we can get rid of just there, and the rest of them will be burying down within the soil anyway. So definitely not ideal, but it is the beginning for us with this tree. So this will be its first of many root prunings, and if we look to see how it's fitting into the pot, it does need quite a bit. Now that we've got those roots coming outwards, we do need to trim them away considerably in order for them to fit nicely in the pot and keep generating into a radial position. So we'll just give it that profile pruning around the edges. Give them a rake out for what we've got. See how they sit in the pot. It's not too bad, but still just a little bit too much. So we'll just give it one final edge pruning. that's going to go nicely into the pot now. Okay, so we'll get tidied up, get some soil and look at getting it into the pot. So we've got a thin layer of soil in the pot, and we'll just position the tree to about where we would want it to sit, and we can continue to fill it in with the macadamia soil. Again, this is the first time I'm using macadamia. So we'll just try and get that worked in to the roots, although filling in all those air pockets that we've created and the spaces that we've created by removing lots of the roots, and we'll just keep putting it in, keep working it in to the roots. There's lots of space in there for plenty of this soil yet, so we'll keep going. I seem to be chucking more of it out into the tray than I am actually getting into the pot. But we'll keep working. It should go in nicely to all the different air pockets that are there. And just flip it around, make sure we get it from all sides, worked in as well as we can. So with it worked in as much as we're going to get it, we'll give it a water through, make sure those roots underneath get a nice fresh drink, and that is flowing out the other side nicely. And then we'll just take some moss and place that on and around. to make it look nice and presentable. Few bits around the edge here, bottom of the trunk. Now that's on, we'll give it another flush over with the water. And that's the Ligustrum ready to sit and recover. Again, we're not going to touch the canopy, we're going to let that do its thing, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so this is a Bonsai Carmona, as they've labelled it, as it's left the factory. There are some little flowers that are coming up on it, so again we'll not mess about with the structure and the canopy, even though we can see that it does need a lot of work. There's 1, 2, 3 multiple branches all coming out at these same points. But the first thing that I want to do is just repot all of these that were delivered, so that we've got something that we can work with going forward. So the roots being the main thing, we're not going to attack this top, and I mean it's flowering, so that'll be a good indicator as to how much damage we do or do not do to the roots during these repottings. So this lost lots of soil, so it's going to just come straight out the pot, and this is pretty much just soil, and it's, yeah, oh my word, so there's not many roots in here at all, so it'll be ideal getting it into some nice bonsai soil nice and early. So we'll just go down, see how far we get down to the root plane, and we've already won an inch of trunk there. So we'll just rake that out as best we can. Put that to one side. We'll see what kind of roots we've got here. There's not many, so the roots that we've got to work with will predominantly have to stay. We will lose a few, but the good thing is the few that are there are gonna start giving us our radial roots. So we'll just get rid of all this old soil. It's going everywhere. It's not too bad, it's sandy, it's soily, so it wasn't too bad a soil for it to be in. There looks to be the beginning of quite a good radial system already, so we've definitely got something to work with. There's a lot of lumpy bits on the bottom, which I think we're just gonna take those off, as long as we don't lose too many of the roots that are feeding the tree. But no, I think we've got a nice beginning of a system here, so I think we might get quite lucky with this one. I'll just go and clean them, and we'll see what we've got. So as you can see, this tree's been surviving with these few roots that it's got here. I don't really take that back any further, but what I am going to do is there are some larger roots that are coming straight down that are, well, I'm not quite sure what they are, but they're going to come off just to create a nicer flatness. They seem to have had some really sharp edges, claw-like roots at the bottom, so we've got what's now a nicer base to the roots. In general, they tend to come out in a radial pattern. We can try and work with that the best we can. We have some nice big ones, chunky ones that come out in a radial pattern. Then there's these thin ones that have just been allowed to go a little bit haywire. I'm just going to take off a tiny bit more of that base just to make it so it sits flatter. There's a larger root that comes off here that drops down, which we'll be able to drop into the soil, and then that's got some roots that come off it. There's nothing really coming down and going back in. It tends to come outwards and flow outwards, so they just need to be laid down, put into a more radial position, and allowed to try and come back in that radial position and strengthen up. So we've got our pot with a bit of soil in, and we're going to just try and get this back in and try and get the roots going out in a radial position as best that we can. I think that's going to be the best positioning we can do in this pot. So we'll just fill in around the edges. Just quickly work some of that in straight away into the roots underneath. And get some more, fill it in. Just try and work that in again to the spaces that we've created in the soil. So hopefully the flowers will be the best indicator as to whether or not we've been successful with this repot initially, because if the flowers continue to grow, then the roots will be doing well. If they die off, then it's going to take some time for these roots to get established and come back. I've got a feeling that they'll do okay as long as we look after it, get it into a good position, into the one of the tents upstairs, plenty of light, plenty of good, watering at the right times, etc., and we should be well away. So a little bit more soil just to get around that edge, and a little bit just over this side. We'll just spread it over, fill in the gaps. give it a water through. Again, this is pure Akadama. First time I'm using Akadama, so it'll be interesting for me how it goes. But it's running straight through the bottom. It's coming out nice and clear. And I do still have a bit of moss left, so we'll get some moss in. Might just have to lose a bit of the soil. We'll slowly come in with the moss, building it up around the planting, make it look nice. With a nice landscape finish. More. And if I seem a bit laboured, that's because it's now 1 o'clock in the morning here. It's been raining all day and it's been difficult to get a lot of things done, and I wanted to get this video of the repots done as I'm going off to Prague in a couple of hours. We'll be heading off to the airport, so I want to just quickly get this video completed for being able to go up and onto the channel. So if I appear to have been a little bit not my normal self, that is the reason why. And for some people, that'll be a good thing. So that's the moss in position. It's looking not too bad in the pot. We'll give the moss a wash over. So we're here with our second Carmona. This too lost a lot of soil in its transport, so it's a good idea to get this out. But if the last one's anything to go on, the reason it lost all the soil is because there was no roots holding it together. So we'll just get the main bits of the soil off. And then we'll see what we've got to work with. So again, we've got not a lot of the root system here on this one. This was flowering as well, so it was obviously doing something in its pot. But if we just rake out the bottom, we've got some knobbly parts to the bottom of the root base, and we've got some beginnings of roots coming out of the side. So let's get these roots washed. So with the roots washed, we can see that we've got some bits that need cutting off at the bottom to make this bottom plane a lot flatter and smoother for us to work with. But other than removing this bulbous part, I don't think we want to be attacking it too much further, because there is literally no roots there. However, this tree was pumping out these little flowers, and this new roots could have only been due to the fact that it was in a good greenhouse environment. There's some really nice little new growth. Again, all this action that's going on here needs some real serious attention. It's clawing back in on itself. You know, it needs to be have a lot of work done to it. But I think for now we're going to get it back into its pot. We know what the roots are like. We know what we're working with, and at least we can work with this from a point of trying to get these roots to be radial. You know, if we keep working on them every 18 months, 2 years, we should end up with some nice radial root bases off of these. There is just a little bit I just want to tidy up there. That's it. So these were pushing down, and now we've got something to work with. The trunk's got some interesting things happening on it. It's very bulbous in different areas. It's obviously had multiple trunks coming out in different places, but as it matures and as it gets established, we'll be able to work out what we've got. There's lots of branches where they come out and then dart across that are probably going to have to be removed, but for now we just want to get it back into its pot and letting it re-establish itself for a nice root system to start growing. So we'll just fill this in. We will work it in, although there's not a lot to work it in to, but there are some little pockets underneath there. So we'll just get it around the roots that are there. We'll just have to be careful not to be pushing this tree about, because it's not going to have a whole lot of a root system holding itself in the tree. We'll put some moss across the top, which will help firm it up a bit, and if we need to, we'll put some rocks on, but they're going to sit inside the tents, and they won't or shouldn't have any disruptions or anything hitting it, knocking it, cats, dogs, animals of any description. So we'll give that a quick water through. That's coming through the bottom. We'll just wait for it to clear, because it is quite murky. And hopefully in a couple of years these will have some nice roots for us to work with. We'll just put a bit of moss in just to tidy it up. A little bit of moss. And the moss should come up nicely in the tent. It should come up nice and green. and it'll look very nice, hopefully. A few more bits of moss left here. I do have some more if I've run out, but I think I'm going to have enough, which is a miracle. I bought in pretty much bang on the exact amount that was needed for this repotting session. So just a little bit more around this side, and there we go. Trying to throw it on the floor. Just about the perfect amount of moss. So we'll get this tidied away, and then we'll have another look at what they look like in the new pots. So here we have the Fukien Tea in its pot, nicely repotted. We'll let it get re-established, establish its root base, and then over a period of time we'll start attacking the trunk and the canopy once the roots are a little bit more re-established in its new soil. And we have the Ligustrum in its new soil, newly repotted, needs some work up on the canopy, but I'm going to let the roots get re-established before we attack this any further. And then over the next couple of years we will begin to work on the trunk and the canopy and bring it into some sort of order. But that's how it looks, repotted back into its original pot with the roots just tidied up a little bit. This is the first of the Carmonas that we've repotted. It's got lots of room for its roots to get established into this pot now. We'll check to see how these little budding flowers do over the next week or so. And as it becomes more established in its pot, we'll start work on the canopy, because there is, as with all of these, a lot of tidy up work to do in the canopy. And the second Carmona that we repotted, that's how it's sat and looking in its pot. It should be okay. We'll check and see how the new growth carries on. Now we've removed that older soil and got it into the Akadama. I do think in future we'll be adding perlite to the Akadama, because the Akadama just seems to break down straight away, and the perlite will keep those little oxygen pockets in there a lot longer for me, I believe. So that's the second of the Carmonas and the last of the 4 postage units, shall we call them, that were delivered. And yeah, we'll see how they get on. It's always a good idea, I believe, when they come through the post, to get them out of the soil that they come in, because they don't normally come in great soil, and it's a great move to get them out and into some decent soil. Now they've gone into Akadama, which is supposed to be fantastic, but again, like I say, this is the first time me using it. Next time I'm going to put some perlite in with it, but for now this is the Carmona. So once again, thank you for joining me today with these 4 new trees that we've repotted. It's now 1:15 in the morning. I've got up to 2 hours to get sorted, to be ready to get off to catch that big silver bird. But thank you for bearing with me. This is Let's Do Bonsai. I'm Scott Winard, and I'll see you again soon.